What is going on, world? What's up, YouTube? It's Zero here. Today I'm bringing you guys a brand new episode of the 8 Below Show. Welcome everyone to 8 Below, the best gaming related show here on YouTube. And I'm super excited about our episode here today. We have a ton of stuff to talk about, so let's get into it. Do you guys remember Ninja Gaiden, the really fun and exciting action game using multiple different combos to take out your enemies with Ryu Hayabusa, the very iconic character in the Ninja Gaiden series? Well, what happened to Ninja Gaiden, guys? As a franchise and as just individual games, they were extremely exciting and fun, and we haven't seen a Ninja Gaiden, expansion or a new game in the Ninja Gaiden series for a long time. So let's talk about it. In an article that was written by John Canties of Gaming Bolt, it's been the better half of a decade since we've seen the fabled Ryu Hayabusa briskly jaunt across our television screens and computer monitors in anything new. Gaming has been forced to go without any new appearances of the unforgettable ninja that first eloquently jumped and slashed his way through arcades and living rooms in the late 80s. The NES version was, of course, the one that primarily caught on in the West, and it introduced millions of gamers, young and old, to a truly tough-as-nails experience that kept players addicted and coming back despite that fact that some of the harder sections weren't really hard for the right reasons. Even though it didn't have too much in common with its arcade-bound older brother, the version of Ninja Gaiden that was brought to the Nintendo Entertainment System quickly became one of the system's biggest hits and still maintains a fair amount of notoriety even today. So, obviously, guys, I personally did not play Ninja Gaiden on the Nintendo Entertainment System. However, I got into the series, of course, when it was on Xbox and when it came to, the Xbox 360, and that's kind of where really the series kind of ended off as well. Playing it on the original Xbox and moving into, of course, the Xbox 360, some absolutely incredible games. Unsurprisingly, a trilogy was forged from the infamy of the first game, and a slightly tweaked collection of all three was eventually made for the NES's 16-bit successor, with less damage taken from enemies and infinite continues in the third game. And this was a welcome collection that reached millions more gamers as the medium gained popularity in the 1990s. So with such a fantastic start to the franchise and so many more profitable and affectionately revered sequels and reboots that followed, why has this series seemingly stopped in its tracks? This is a very good question. As I mentioned, Ninja Gaiden had a great run in the 90s on Nintendo's consoles, but the series was just too popular to stay on one platform. It wasn't long before the franchise made a jump over to Sega consoles, including a Master System game and a Game Gear game, which were both their own special versions, with only certain sprites and levels from the originals being repurposed. A Mega Drive game was planned, but somewhere along the line it was mysteriously canceled, possibly to keep all Ninja fans with Sega consoles focused on the Shinobi series, which was seeing a healthy, steady stream of excellent games at the time, but it's hard to say for sure. It would be good while until a revival of the franchise finally landed on Xbox, which inspired its own series of games with Ninja Gaiden Black and Ninja Gaiden Sigma. These were all received quite well and brought back that perfect balance of fun and challenge that the originals were known for and translated it perfectly into a new generation of consoles meeting the new expectations of gamers at the time. So, Ninja Gaiden Black and Ninja Gaiden Sigma were where I came into this franchise and started playing this franchise very religiously, guys. Really enjoyed the game for a number of reasons. At the time, I obviously, multiplayer wasn't really becoming, wasn't at a place of where it is today. So single player stories were great. And just the fact that I could sit there, play by myself, and just enjoy that hack and slash kind of style action game with a number of different, puzzles that you had to complete and the absolute challenge that was Ninja Gaiden really kind of brought me back over and over again to the franchise. And so it started with those couple of games, and then of course as time went, there were times where I kind of fell off and didn't play as much Ninja Gaiden, but my passion for this game really kind of stayed there, and a lot of people's passion out there. I think that fire is still burning within us for more Ryu Hayabusa. Sequels to and re-releases of these modern games would continue well into the next decade before finally hitting a bump in the road with Ninja Gaiden 3 Razor's Edge that saw a Wii U, Xbox 360, and PS3 release. This would be the first time that would receive multiple rounds of criticism for its combat being too streamlined and watered down. Sure, that might have made the game more accessible to newer and more casual players, but it also was a disappointment to those who had been keeping up with the series for a long time and were expecting a certain amount of challenge that simply wasn't there. So this is true. When Razor's Edge came out, there wasn't as much challenge as people were kind of expecting, and I think that could have been the first thing that went wrong with Ninja Gaiden that you could kind of point to and say, maybe that's part of what happened in Ninja Gaiden. You'd think with all of the goodwill and fandom that had been built up and preserved over the last 20 years, people would have gone a little easier on Ninja Gaiden 3, but nevertheless, 5s and 6s out of 10s were rampant, and the game was largely talked up as a disappointment by some and around average by most. In a vacuum, average isn't a terrible thing, but for this series, it definitely hurt a little more. Although most would stop short of calling that game bad, that was a word that would be used soon though, as the spin-off Ninja Gaiden Z would soon lower the bar even more upon its release in 2014. Ninja Gaiden Z had about a ridiculous of a setup as it could have had, with an undead ninja Yaba slaughtering zombies and traveling between dimensions and basically just creating a mess out of the franchise with his existence. So, Ninja Gaiden Z, guys, in my eyes, was a significant downgrade for me within this franchise. I feel personally that this was the dark ages of the game and of the franchise. You kind of had Ninja Gaiden 3, which was kind of like moving in this bad direction, and Ninja Gaiden Z, man, you started hitting almost rock bottom with those back-to-back games, especially coming off of the successes of course, the first couple of games in the franchise that were on the Xbox. And so it was very unfortunate what happened there, but what was to follow was really where I think things started to kind of pick back up slowly but surely. And I think, guys, when you really think about it, Ninja Gaiden started off really good, and then it kind of had its lull, and then, kind of started moving in a good direction once again, which we'll get to here in a sec. But I think that Ninja Gaiden isn't necessarily the only series that this has happened to. There's been so many games in the past. I've talked about Call of Duty and Assassin's Creed and so many different games out there, guys, that have had these issues. And I think another big issue for Ninja Gaiden was the fact that it was only a single-player story, which really hurt those sales and such, because there wasn't much reason other than that single-player story for fans to come back to the game. And we'll get to why I think that could maybe change over time, because when the game does end up coming back, which I hope is soon, maybe, just maybe, they'll have more modes and more ways that we can connect with the franchise. So, it even ended up on Games Radar's 100 Worst Games of 2014 list, which is an insane thing to say about a Ninja Gaiden game considering its roots in excellence. And this, of course, was Ninja Gaiden Z. If there has ever been a franchise that needed turned around, it's this one. Ninja Gaiden has already proven itself to be very timeless and rebootable in the right hands. So, I think it's safe to say we haven't seen the last of it. Ryu has made appearances in other games in recent years as well, so it's clear that Team Ninja doesn't want to give up on him just yet. Given all of this, I think Ninja Gaiden as a series is pretty safe. It's well known and generally well respected despite the last couple of missteps, and I think Team Ninja is probably doing the right thing by keeping it on ice for a little while. Patience is key here. So, look. In my eyes, guys, I truly believe that even though there was some lulls here, right, I think overall the Ninja Gaiden experience is very unique for what it is. And I think that it definitely deserves to coexist within the gaming universe. I believe, though, that it's a good thing that Team Ninja has taken their time. I mean, they're called Team Ninja for crying out loud. They obviously had to take something from the Ninja Gaiden series for their own name. So I think that what they're doing now is they're kind of trying to redefine who they are as far as a studio regarding the Ninja Gaiden franchise. And Obviously, they're working on other things. The Dead or Alive series and a number of other games out there, but I think that there's still truly they want to continue onwards with the Ninja Gaiden franchise, and they haven't done so. And I think that moving forward, guys, like what I was saying is moving forward after Z came out, I think moving forward now, we're moving in a direction where I think that we could really have some significant incline after this decline that they've had. And really, when you think about it, guys, I know a lot of people gave, Ninja Gaiden 3 a lot of crap over the years. To me, though, I didn't think it was a terrible, game. I thought that Ninja Gaiden Z was definitely not what fans really wanted. But I thought that if they kind of go based on, kind of go back to those roots and they start adding some new things to the franchise, right? They start adding, a multiplayer mode or some co-op modes and things of that nature. I think it's going to bring people back, and I think it's going to bring people back to the franchise after they just beat that single-player experience. Bring back making the game really hard to play as well. I even thought that Ninja Gaiden 3 was still, even though people thought that it wasn't as difficult as some of the other games, that's true. I still thought that it was, it was somewhat difficult. I mean, it wasn't, for the faint of heart. But Ninja Gaiden Z definitely was a real downgrade in that department. But I'd love to hear from you guys. What do you guys think happened to Ninja Gaiden? I kind of giving you my 2 cents on it. I think that what really happened was it was, having significant incline, and then, a couple of games kind of took it a little bit off course, and now the future, I think, is actually pretty bright for this series because we haven't gotten a new one in a while, and I think with some added game modes, I think it could really be back on track. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section below, and for all the news and content, more so for the future of the Ninja Gaiden franchise, stay right here with Zero TV. Our next topic of the show is about Fear, and the Fear franchise, guys, the first Encounter Assault Recon franchise, a franchise in which was absolutely terrifying to myself. It was one of the scariest games at the time when I played it. Obviously, as time has gone on, there's been some other very terrifying games, but this as a first-person shooter was a terrifying experience, and it was very well done. Between the first one, the second one, and then the third one obviously was a little bit, shaky, but we'll kind of get to that. But here's the question, guys. Where is Fear 4? A game that I believe definitely deserves to exist in gaming, and a franchise that I think should have continued without a doubt. I'm just wondering to myself, and I've been wondering for a while, where is Fear 4 and whatever happened to this series? So let's talk about it. In an article written by Ethan Butterfield of GameGrin, there are few things that can capture the sense of tension in a horror game better than what Fear itself brings to the table. Yes, there's nothing quite like blowing away psychic enemy soldiers with shotguns and grenade launchers in close-range combat. That doesn't sound right. In all seriousness, though, Fear, abbreviated from First Encounter Assault Recon, is the spitting image of what the horror and action genre look like when put together well. One could also put Doom 3 in that category, but Doom is more of a franchise known for the action rather than the scares, whereas Fear, on the other hand, brings more of a spookiness to it, which is 100% true, guys. If you never played the Fear franchise, especially the first two, absolutely terrifying moments. So what is Fear? Well, it's funny that I should ask that, but because my first experience with Fear were interesting right from the get-go. Now, as I'm sure some of you can relate, sometimes there is a series that you end up playing in the reverse order, whether it be Metal Gear Solid or Resident Evil or what have you. And so he explains how he kind of went from the second Fear over to the first one. So he kind of played it a little bit backwards. And I think that this can be true for a lot of people out there. When you look at games like Metal Gear Solid or Resident Evil, sometimes you might play the games backwards somewhat or another just because of like when they came out in the order of events. The story to Fear is actually, for the most part anyway, fairly interesting and engaging. Throughout the first game, you take the reins of Point Man, a real man of the point, evidently, as you fight against an evil corporation known as Marmachem. who on a scale of ridiculously evil is one step below Umbrella, but one above Cell from Crisis. During the length of the campaign, you uncover the dark secrets behind Armacham as you listen to office phone messages, kill dudes in armor, and fight off a terrifying ghost child named Alma that can warp reality into a horrifying nightmare state. But just your average Mondays. In terms of how the game did, the first Fear performed incredibly well and garnered several positive scores for its gameplay and atmospheric tone. The second game in the franchise, which also was met with the same praise, followed the same format, but this time the player took control of one Michael Beckett, a far less mute protagonist, but still the same amount as Grizzled. In-game, it's all pretty much the same stuff throughout. Dudes in armor, horror happens, and Alma becomes a mother. It's true, at the end of Fear 2 titled Project Origin, Alma does a thing to Beckett, and that thing results in a child of her very own. Frankly, the way it plays out is more disturbing than horrifying, but it still gets points all the same. Review-wise, Fear 2 also did quite successfully and was well received by fans of the franchise. So going back here, the first game, guys, was terrifying. I thought it was absolutely incredibly well done. Very interesting story. I thought it was a great, first game in a franchise like this. And I didn't really think twice, like, are they going to make another one or not? It was just something that I enjoyed it a lot, and I would definitely play another one if they made one. They come out with Fear 2. I'm like, this looks really good. I'm going to give it a try, and I did, and it was even better than the first one, in my opinion. I thought it was scarier than the first one. I thought that, I liked the character, the character arcs and things of that nature more, and all in all, I thought Fear 2 was absolutely incredible. So that's kind of like my personal take on it. I'm like, okay, now I'm expecting them to make more and more of these games. So, Fear 3... So being the last entry into the series, you might be surprised to learn that Fear 3 switched up the formula a bit and presented itself as a co-op shooter, which is kind of perplexing when you think about it. A first-person action horror game may be scary here and there, but a co-op first-person action horror game will certainly not be. Despite the above, however, Fear 3 was praised for its well-constructed co-op feature and decent overall characterization, but panned for its lack of horror and storytelling. A story, mind you, that ends up with Alma giving birth while picking which of the two players she liked more, and thus fundamentally turning the game bitter for players by alienating one of the participants, regardless of how well they actually did. So why hasn't there been a recent addition to the beloved Fear franchise? Now, here's what I'm going to talk about, guys, is Fear as with this third game. When I played it, it's another mistake that a horror game, series, franchise has made. Instead of doing what works and what is, what people want, it's another franchise that has turned into this idea where, hey, we don't want it to be necessarily as much horror anymore. We want it to be more of a shooter. And kind of trying to go in this route of like a Call of Duty game or something of that nature. When really, it's all about the horror, even though obviously it's a first-person shooter as well. First-person shooter horror game. And it was terrifying at that. I get the direction they were trying to go. They wanted to make this co-op shooter. They wanted to create Fear Online, which was going to be this online experience and all these different things. It was ambitious. But the problem is that when you move away from the franchise in a way, it can really backfire on you. We look at the Dead Space franchise. Dead Space 1 and 2, incredible games. And then you get to the third one, it was still good, but they tried to go in this direction of a shooter instead of sticking to the roots of the game, that being a horror game. And look what happened. We haven't had a Dead Space game since Dead Space 3. So what I'm saying is, guys, is that there's a trend here with these horror games. If you are a horror developer and you have something special here, don't go away from what has made the series so good. Stick with it, maybe evolve it a bit. And look, no one's saying that you can't make a Fear game and have it scary as far as the campaign is concerned, but then add online components that maybe aren't as scary. And add some co-op modes and things of that nature. There's nothing wrong with that, but when it comes to the story itself, stick to what has made the franchise so promising and so exciting and scary. Stick with those things and what's made it successful. I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that a combination of mediocre sales and lack of scares are most likely what did the franchise in. I also wouldn't be shocked if Fear Online had a big part to play in it as well. This is really unfortunate because I feel like there's still a lot of potential left in the series that someone could work with, but that's just me. All in all, though, Fear is a title that, despite tripping up a bit in the third game, really just needs a fresh coat of paint to come alive once more. So, look, I like this article overall, guys, and I agree with a lot of what he's saying here, stating that Fear Online was it was ambitious, it was a good idea, but it was almost too soon. Like, you look at GTA Online, you look at Red Dead Online, you look at these other multiplayer components that games have been putting in or implementing nowadays. It's a great idea for the time. Fear Online was a great idea for the time. The problem is we just weren't there yet, technologically and all of those things. Also, Fear was somewhat of a niche game, and I think it was a great idea, but so many people were playing Call of Duty, they were playing Battlefield, they were playing other games, Halo, they were playing other shooters. So I think Fear needed to not really create Fear Online, just create like some multiplayer game modes, kind of get people engaged and coming back to the franchise, even doing like, if you had like a horde mode where you're going against waves upon waves of enemies, things of that nature I think would have done really well for the Fear franchise. Unfortunately, guys, we're never probably really going to know. There has been rumor that another Fear was going to come back, but I think really what it comes down to, guys, if you ever want to see another Fear game, we're really going to have to get the community alive again. And the community is going to have to be the ones stating that they want another Fear game. And I believe the last time I checked, the Fear servers were basically shut down as far as from the online components, which is really sad and unfortunate. I think what it really is going to take, though, guys, you look at a game like the Mafia series, which we have talked about on the YouTube channel. Mafia was in kind of a state of limbo, and has been for a while, but with lots of talks and things of that nature, the community is almost trying to breathe fresh life into the Mafia franchise and get Hangar 13 to make another game. The same could be said with Fear. We could get this game made. It just all comes down to, does the community want it, and then kind of building a movement around that game. But let me know what you guys think. What do you guys think happened to the Fear franchise? Would you want to see a Fear 4? And where do you think the game is at this point? Do you think it's in limbo? Do you think it's actually being developed right now? What do you guys think? Let me know in the comment section below. And for all news and videos, content based around Fear 4, stay right here with Zero TV. So the Rainbow Six franchise, guys, is one of the best out there without a doubt. It's extremely exciting. Rainbow Six Siege has actually done incredibly well from a game that wasn't doing so good at first to, Ubisoft not giving up on this IP whatsoever, or on the game, I should say, and really continuing to support it. And all of a sudden, look at where it's at now. Rainbow Six Siege has become one of the biggest first-person shooters out there, and I don't think there's any debate about it at this point. I mean, Rainbow Six Siege has breathed fresh life into the Rainbow Six franchise, and I think that a lot of that has to do with just Ubisoft not giving up on the IP and on particularly Siege as a whole, the esports side of it. All of that, I think, takes into, we got to take all that stuff into account here. But what happened to Rainbow Six Vegas? And I'm going to talk about this because Rainbow Six Vegas, guys, was very close to my heart. It was actually the very first time I had gotten involved in the Rainbow Six franchise, which has been going on since 1998. The first edition, or I should say the very first, the beginnings of Rainbow Six were back in 1998, and they were followed up practically every year. And then, of course, as we kind of, moved onwards, after, into the early 2000s, you started getting games every couple of years. And really, when you think about it, it has been something that is absolutely, without a doubt, a very popular franchise. And I got to say, guys, that Rainbow Six Vegas, I absolutely loved. And of course, they made Vegas 2. And I was really hoping that they would make a third Rainbow Six Vegas. But I think a lot of it had to do with the setting, of course, and something that I just really enjoyed about Rainbow Six Vegas. I loved being in Vegas and just kind of that darker, color palette, but also very bright at certain areas. It was just a very different but really amazing game, and I'll never forget playing on Realistic in Library on, we're just going to call it The Hunt for the purposes of the video, but on The Hunt, playing on Realistic in Rainbow Six Vegas, I had some of the most intense and fun moments playing, co-op against AI ever in a video game that I can remember. Just great memories, guys, of the Rainbow Six Vegas franchise. So really, what happened to Rainbow Six Vegas? Because you had 2 of them, and then all of a sudden, they end up not making another one. You've got Rainbow Six Shadow Vanguard, which, of course, pretty much was released on iOS and Android in 2011, and that was just on iOS and Android. Then you had Rainbow Six Patriots, which was supposed to come out on the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One, which allegedly was supposed to be essentially Rainbow Six Siege. It was supposed to be somewhat, obviously was going to have, somewhat different. But at the same time, I think really what happened, guys, was between the Rainbow Six games, Rainbow Six Vegas games, I think really probably what happened was Ubisoft wanted to kind of do something else with the Rainbow Six franchise. They did 2 games in Vegas, and then they kind of wanted to move on to somewhere else. And they probably wanted to put more emphasis on multiplayer, which is exactly what they did when Siege was released in 2015. And sure, it had a shaky start, and there's no debate about that. But they didn't give up. And we find time and time again nowadays, and it's starting to become more of a recurring thing, that when developers don't necessarily give up on their IP, they kind of fix the things that fans don't like about the game, and they just kind of continue to work on it, make it a work in progress. Sometimes very special things can happen, and Rainbow Six Siege is certainly one of those things that has become very special. It's become a game that I absolutely love watching from an esports perspective. I love playing the game. The community sometimes can be really toxic, but I love watching, I love playing the game, and I'm very excited about the future of Rainbow Six. Rainbow Six Quarantine, of course, was announced. It is supposed to be coming out this year. Who knows, though, guys? It's very hard to say. I will say that I'm really excited about that because it's a different take on Rainbow Six. I think one thing that Ubisoft wants to do is they want to really kind of take some chances with the franchise, but I think that they're good things that they're doing, right? They've kind of not as they stick with the formula that works, but at the same time they're kind of evolving the franchise, and they don't get complacent because Rainbow Six Vegas and Vegas 2 were very successful. They're not necessarily like shying away from saying Rainbow Six Vegas 3 or 4, continuing onwards with Vegas. They want to continue really working their creative minds over there and making Siege, or doing Patriots and then Siege, of course, because Patriots was canceled. Making Siege, continuing to like almost breathe fresh life into the franchise with Siege. And then with Quarantine, they're going a completely different direction. It's going to be, of course, the roots of Rainbow Six, but just in a different way. And I think that this is absolutely incredible what they are doing with this franchise. I think Quarantine is going to be huge. Now, look, it's probably, most likely, it's not going to be necessarily like a Rainbow Six Siege, right? Siege is like, where you go if you want to have a competitive experience and you want to just, of course, just grind as far as trying to rank up those ladders and such. Rainbow Six Quarantine is going to be more of like a co-op experience. You'll be able to, of course, play, rank up your operators and things of that nature. But it sounds like it's going to be kind of different from, of course, Rainbow Six Siege. And I think that's great. I think that's amazing. And that's why I'm super excited about Rainbow Six Quarantine. We're going to have to kind of wait and see like what happens, the future of course, Rainbow Six and the franchise. I'm not going to say that we're never going to see a Rainbow Six Vegas again, though. Maybe at some point or another down the road, they'll make a Rainbow Six Vegas 3. They want to come back to Vegas, and that's something that definitely could happen. We got them pretty much back-to-back, 2006 and 2008. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw them at some point in the foreseeable future, or if we will probably more than likely get a Siege 2 before we get a Vegas 3. But I think what really happened, guys, with this franchise, or really Vegas, the sub-franchise or the sub-series of the overall franchise of Rainbow Six, I think what happened was they wanted to, take their creative talents and move in a different direction and try something new. Because whatever happens, and we can all probably agree to this, that Vegas 2 wasn't quite as good as Vegas. It just, there was things about it that kind of were downgrading, and they probably felt that, and they thought, hey, you know what, let's move in a different direction completely. They were working on Patriots. That didn't work out, and so then there was Siege. It's a great story. I think Rainbow Six, you look at all these games, this is like a series that kind of reminds me of like the Call of Duty franchise and kind of the things that they've tried and what they've done. Now, they come out with a new game every single year, but Rainbow Six has done an incredible job at doing what they do. And I'm excited about Rainbow Six Quarantine. I'm excited just about the future overall of the Rainbow Six franchise. I think they're really building something special with the game and the franchise. We'll have to kind of wait and see. But what do you guys think happened to the Rainbow Six Vegas sub-series of the overall franchise of Rainbow Six? Let me know what you guys think. And for any upcoming news and content based around Rainbow Six, the franchise, Rainbow Six Quarantine, and Siege, and all the future games, stay with us right here on Zero TV. So Horizon Zero Dawn, an exclusive title on PlayStation, really captivated a lot of people in many different ways and was a really exciting open world game, unlike anything that we've really seen in recent memory. Well, where's Horizon Zero Dawn 2? The sequel and anticipated sequel that a lot of people have been talking about. Where is it? When can we expect it? And is it even going to be coming out at any point in the foreseeable future? So let's talk about it. In an article, guys, that was written by Zoe Light, Sam Loveridge, and Heather Wald of Games Radar, although Guerrilla Games hasn't yet announced Horizon Zero Dawn 2, it's basically inevitable. With the PS5 on the horizon, no pun intended, it feels like if developer Guerrilla Games was to start talking sequels, now is a better time than any. However, the leaks suggest that a Horizon Zero Dawn PC port is the next thing on Guerrilla's list. Either way, though, a Horizon Zero Dawn 2 in some form feels inevitable. When Horizon Zero Dawn landed in 2017, everyone was immediately taken with its expansive open world and the red-haired protagonist. Aloy's story is far from over, and with so much scope for more exploration, another adventure is surely on the horizon. While news is scarce and the developer has yet to speak about the existence of the sequel, we've gathered together every piece of information we can find as we put forward our theories for what might be happening in Horizon Zero Dawn 2. So, here's the thing, guys, is that I believe that a Horizon Zero Dawn 2 is definitely inevitable. I mean, why wouldn't they make another one? The first one was very well done, number one, but it was also just successful in multiple different ways, right? A lot of these PlayStation exclusives have actually done extremely well, and Horizon Zero Dawn is no exception. So I would expect a Horizon Zero Dawn 2 very soon. I would actually expect it to be announced at some point this year in 2020. We probably won't see it for another couple of years after that, but at least an initial announcement from Guerrilla Games, I think, is what we can probably expect. So, kind Considering the end of Horizon Zero Dawn depicted Sylens approaching a downed Horus robot that can create destroyer robots, one of these reanimated skyscraper-sized machines could even make an appearance in Horizon Zero Dawn 2. The amount of work you need to put in to make a Horus a feature of the world could be astronomical, especially Aloy was able to get near and explore its interior like it was a whole new region. Whatever Guerrilla is doing with its new space, I definitely can't wait to see the results. So obviously Guerrilla, they have like a new or an additional studio space, which is pretty cool as well. Now, Horizon Zero Dawn 2 could already be in the works. Now, here's the thing, guys. If you were to ask me what would be one of the main things that I would want in Horizon Zero Dawn 2, personally, and you guys, this is probably not going to come as any surprise to you guys, but I want more ways to connect with the franchise. And that goes with any game out there, guys. I look at games in terms of like a package. So when you buy a game, you want it to be not just a single player experience, you want it to also be, somewhat like maybe some co-op modes or just some other single player elements to the game that you can kind of do to reconnect or continue coming back to the franchise, even multiplayer. And obviously Horizon Zero Dawn is meant to be a single player experience, but look, we want to have something that we can also come back to. At least that's for me, myself. So that'd be like number one. But back in November, a new job listing appeared for a technical vegetation artist at Guerrilla Games. The posting itself outright mentions Horizon, indicating that the studio may well have already started work on a sequel and are working to add some dressing to the game's world. Within Guerrilla, we have 4 teams dedicated to creating the stunning environments of Horizon, the listing states. One team focuses on the creation of lush and stunning vegetation. We build these 3D models from scratch so our world dressing teams can deliver our immersive world with industry benchmark graphics. Then there's Horizon Zero Dawn to PS4 exclusivity is almost certain. So this is probably something that we can probably all expect. There's pretty much zero chance that Sony would let Guerrilla Games put the game on Microsoft's Xbox One or even the Xbox Series X because Horizon Zero Dawn sold over 7.6 million copies worldwide as of February 2018. So it's been moderately successful, more like very successful, guys. With such a sparkling gem in Sony's crown, don't get your hopes up for Horizon Zero Dawn being released on anything but PS4, PS4 Pro, or the PS5. Obviously, the trailer remains elusive for now. We have no information about pretty much a trailer. All that we can kind of think about is when would we maybe see it like a first trailer, right? A reveal trailer for Horizon Zero Dawn 2. Honestly, we might see it this year in 2020. They at least reveal it. They kind of acknowledge its existence, and then we would obviously see more as time goes on. Horizon Zero Dawn must be in early stages of development, but so far there's very little news about what will feature in the sequel to Guerrilla Games' phenomenal Horizon Zero Dawn, or any other news about the next game to emerge, blinking in the sunlight from Guerrilla Games. Speculation until we get any solid information, that's going to have to do for now. Now, will Aloy return? Although we kind of feel like her story has been told, the end of Horizon Zero Dawn with Silence and Hades implies there's more for her to discover and do. Speaking to GR for a recent feature, Herman Hulst, managing director and co-founder of Guerrilla Games, says she's really uncovered some of the main mysteries in the world, but how do you feel when you finish the story? Are there questions that come up that you want to relive and answer for Aloy? It was not difficult for us to build the Frozen Wilds and tell that story through Aloy. The environments in the world that we've put together easily raise more questions. And I agree with this. It's certainly, there's a lot of question marks there. At the same time, though, I kind of felt like after I was done, you could see that her story, you could maybe accept that it's over. But at the same time, I think most of us at least want to see a continuation of Aloy's story. As Aloy was one of the core pillars of Horizon Zero Dawn, I think it's safe to assume that she'll definitely be making a return. Perhaps she'll be a mother herself this time around, as the theme of motherhood and destiny was a strong one throughout the entirety of the first game. Another possibility is that Aloy turns her attentions to hunting down Sylens after he helps Hades to reanimate the wrecked Horus they find in the post-credits sequence. So I agree with this. I mean, there's a ton of different ways and ways in which the series can turn. Obviously we have no idea where they're going to go with it. I think that what they should do, at least, guys, is they should continue with Aloy's story moving into Horizon Zero Dawn 2, especially if they plan on making multiple games. I think that eventually, she can pass the torch to someone else, and then you would play someone else. Maybe after the third game, they kind of wrap up her story in 3 games and then kind of move on to the next character. That's a possibility. Or maybe they want to make this a trilogy and that's it. It's really hard to say how they want to work this. So, given that gameplay is intrinsically linked to story in the original, the two will evolve hand in hand for Horizon Zero Dawn 2. We know from the ending of the first game that Sylens has saved Hades for himself, so that instantly provides us with a new bad guy. Sylens and Aloy have a strange kind of frenemy relationship, with Sylens periodically helping out Aloy, but being transparent about his reasons for keeping her safe, her link to the old world, and his insatiable thirst for knowledge. So what you're picking up on is the personification of AI systems, of giving them a face and a character and a behavior. These are huge themes in our world too. The autonomy of warfare, the potential threat of AI going wrong. I think it's really nice to show and not tell in games and have the player react to them and fight them. That makes it much more interesting to me. While that's very much a thing in Horizon and the main thrust of the Frozen Wilds, it sounds like AI could well be a continuing theme of Horizon Zero Dawn 2. And I agree with this. One of the things that makes Horizon Zero Dawn so great is just the uniqueness of the world. I mean, it's like one of those games that's just it's so cool. Like shooting bow and arrows against robot dinosaurs. It's the imagination just runs wild with a game like Horizon Zero Dawn. That's why, guys, I'm saying that one of my number one thing that I want for Horizon Zero Dawn 2. Obviously, I want a great story. I would like to continue Aloy's story, things of that nature. I just want more ways I can connect with the franchise instead of just playing the campaign and then, doing side missions and things of that nature. And then the game's done and then it's like you move on to the next thing. No, I would like to go ahead and really have ways in which I can continue connecting not only with the characters, but just the game in particular. As a developer, you certainly want to find ways that people continue coming back to the franchise. And I believe that adding some other modes, like whether that's multiplayer, whether that's just co-op modes or just other single player modes, could really go a long way for them. So what about the creatures of Horizon Zero Dawn 2? Looks like there will be plenty more creatures in Horizon Zero Dawn 2. Speaking to Game Informer, art director Jan Bart Van Beek says that the sequel should have more machines. They are a lot of fun to design, build, animate, and play with. I wish we could have done 100, but reality is a harsh mistress. It doesn't allow you to make hundreds of machines. This goes without saying, as does the idea that there will be more powerful enemies too. Yes, even more so than the Fire Claw. It's also possible that we'll see the creatures interacting more and feeling like a more natural part of the world. This idea of an ecosystem was something the creators chose to show less of in the original, but could be a thing for the sequel. Speaking about the original game to GR, Hull says it's important that the world makes sense and the machines have their own roles. The grazers are grazers, and they fulfill a role in this AI-driven existence. But how much you're going to show of that, of the roles the machines play in the ecosystem, well, we could have chosen to show more in that regard, but we also wanted to make it a challenge to fight them, to spend time developing the tribes and the worlds and the foundries. It's definitely something we could see in the follow-up. Machines fighting machines and playing more of a role in shaping the world we play in. And I got to agree with that, guys. I got to agree with that. I mean, I think that adding more machines, new types of machines, definitely keeps it fresh. And obviously, you want to obviously, you want to continue playing in this world and such. But you got to wonder, what is it that they're going to kind of do to kind of continue moving the series and franchise forward? It's interesting because, Hideo Kojima was, of course, went over to Guerrilla Games to show off Death Stranding, and I wonder how much of a hand he has in Horizon Zero Dawn 2, because he's mentioned many times that he's a massive fan of the game, the first one. I'm wondering if part of what he maybe is going to be working on is Horizon Zero Dawn 2 as well. Just kind of something I was kind of thinking about when I saw images of him at Guerrilla Games, the studios, showing off Death Stranding. Or maybe they're just all friends. Who knows? But it would be really cool to see Hideo kind of have his hand somewhat in this, because I think it could be something really special. But what do you guys think? Where's Horizon Zero Dawn at this point as far as the sequel to the first game, and obviously one of the most anticipated games out there, that hasn't even been announced yet? What do you guys think about it? Let me know in the comment section below. And for more Horizon Zero 2 content and videos, stay right here with Zero TV. And with that being said, everyone, I hope you guys did enjoy this episode of the 8 Below Show. And if you guys did, leave a thumbs up, subscribe if you're new, stay positive, and as always, I'll talk to you guys all in the next one. Peace.